Hello, everybody, and welcome to this webinar on crowdfunding. I hope you can all hear me and have managed to access it. Okay. It's lovely to see all your names popping up on the screen. You won't be able to see me because I'm sharing my screen with you just now. As we go along, you can drop questions to me by if you hover over my name. I think it comes up as RT on your screen. You can type in a question, and at the end of the session, I will be able to answer the questions for you. So I hope that makes sense for everybody. This is a crowdfunding webinar from Hot Tap Media and Highlands and Islands Enterprise. This is part of a pilot project that we've been running with Highlands and Islands Enterprise. Highlands and Islands Enterprise were interested in exploring further how crowdfunding could be used for community projects. So we worked together to develop this pilot, and so far we've worked with 2 different community groups in the Highlands region to help them explore how crowdfunding can be used to raise funds for their project. We are looking to work with at least one more project in the future, and that community group could receive like a package of support, which would include a pitch video for their production, some content to help them, and a strategy to help you promote your campaign. So there's a chance to get involved in that. We'll be telling you more about that at the end of the webinar. But for now, I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview about what crowdfunding is, and then talk about the components of what makes a really great crowdfunding campaign. So this is quite a practical webinar to kind of really help you get started with a crowdfunding campaign if that's what you're interested in doing. So first of all, there are 4 different types of crowdfunding campaign, 4 different kind of main funding models, we'll call them. There's a lending model, which was one of the earliest types of crowdfunding campaign, and it's really kind of also known as kind of peer-to-peer lending or debt crowdfunding, and it's really where you borrow money to start your project from a lot of different people, and you give them that money in return, often with a small amount of interest. The donation-based scheme, you can see bottom left there, it's really suitable for projects which have a really strong social purpose, like sliding down the road on a kind of slippery piece of plastic. If you think you've got a really great project that people will just want to donate to without anything in return, this could be the model for you. So there's quite a few platforms that allow you to use that model. So lots of different people will give you money in return for just the pleasure of being involved in your project. Equity crowdfunding is where you give people the chance to contribute to your company. It generally has to be a limited company of some kind, and in return, the contributors get equity in your company. And reward-based crowdfunding, bottom right, is probably what you think of first when you hear the words crowdfunding. The reward-based crowdfunding is like the kind of Kickstarter and Indiegogo style crowdfunding that you see online all the time. And it's really where people donate small amounts of money to your campaign, and in return they get some kind of reward, which we call perks. So maybe they'll give £20 towards your project, and in return they'll get a t-shirt or a mug or a thank you. So crowdfunding globally is huge business. $3 billion dollars is kind of made per year across the world. And as you can see from this kind of graph here, there are kind of some key areas of the world that are more interested in crowdfunding than others. You'll see that North America is probably the biggest base for crowdfunding, but Europe is a really close second and growing all the time. And within that, the UK is one of the most prolific crowdfunding regions of the UK. So in the UK, thousands of millions of pounds have been raised each year, and many of those in Scotland. This is an example of a really great Highlands-based crowdfunding campaign. This is Brewdog. They're from Aberdeenshire, and they set up their own tiny microbrewery from the garage, basically, making their own craft beers. They are kind of seen as the godfathers of crowdfunding in Scotland in a way, and they've been extremely successful. They use the equity approach of crowdfunding, where people can invest in their company and in return have equity in the company. And they've had a really innovative approach by combining that with rewards. So crowdfunders who get involved also get a Brewdog card, which gives them discounts in their online stores and in their bars. And they all get along to come along to the annual AGM, which is a really big party, as you can imagine, for a brewery. I'm going to show you their crowdfunding video.
We are an alternative small company owned by thousands of people who love craft beer. They are our shareholders, our friends, our community, and the heart and soul of our business. This is your chance to join them. In 2010, we toured up convention, turned the traditional business model on its head, and had over 6,000 people invest in equity for punks. And now it's back, bigger and better than ever. This is your chance to own part of Brewdog. And me, and the whale, no fat cat, no fat dogs, no overbearing parent company. Just loads of people who care passionately about great craft beer. In the last 3 years, we've been the fastest growing food and drinks company in the UK. And with you as an equity punk, there's no telling how far we could go. We've grown from our humble origins, 2 humans and 1 dog, in a tiny garage to a thriving business that employs over 180 passionate people, operates 12 beer bars, ships beer to 32 different countries, and is on track to turn over £20 million this year. With all that growth set to continue, this is your opportunity to get involved. Get involved.
I wish you owned a brewery
and know what it's like to drink your own beer in your own bar.
Equity for Punks makes that possible.
Makes this possible.
Want a lifetime discount in all of our bars? Want a lifetime discount on our online shop? Do you want an annual invite for you and a friend to our legendary AGM? Then invest.
Invest.
Because these are just some of the benefits of owning part of a hardcore company. Become a card-carrying craft beer revolutionary. 21st century equity fund. March under the banners of better beer and don't look back. This is a defiant, engaging, supersonic investment opportunity. This is equity for punks.
So as you can see, they really sold their crowdfunding campaign as a chance to just be part of the company in a much richer way. And I think that's kind of one of the main advantages of crowdfunding, is that rather than just getting money, you're getting an audience, you're getting a network and a community around your project, which can be really, really advantageous for a community project. In addition to that, they've raised over £12 million through 4 equity crowdfunding campaigns, and it's just really kind of grown their business in a way that they couldn't have done otherwise. Very inspiring company. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to make a great crowdfunding campaign, just focusing on a few key components. I'll go through these in a little bit more detail. First of all, crowdfunding campaigns generally run on an external platform. Brewdog are an exception to this. They did it on their own website, but it's quite difficult to do this unless you have really good in-house developers. Most people, the vast majority of people, use an existing crowdfunding platform. And the biggest of these are Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and these are probably the ones that you've heard of if you've been looking into crowdfunding a little bit. There are some key differences between these two, and I'll talk about some of the other ones as well. But one of the main things to think about is the funding model. So there's something called a fixed funding model and something called a flexible funding model. The fixed funding model, which is what you hear about through Kickstarter, means that you set your target of how much you want to raise, and if you meet that target, you get all the money, and if you don't meet that target, you don't get any of the money. With Indiegogo, you have the option of having a flexible funding model, which means that you set your target, and then whatever you raise, you get to keep. Now, obviously, that sounds like a much better deal for the crowdfunder because there's low risk. But the downside of that is that you do pay a higher percentage. So the fees for using your crowdfunding platform are usually kind of around 4 or 5%. With Indiegogo, if you don't reach your target, you pay 9% of the money that you've raised. Obviously, with Kickstarter and the fixed funding models, if you don't raise any money, you don't pay any money. There's no setup fees generally for a reward-based crowdfunding platform. So these are things to consider. Kickstarter is very well known, and a lot of people choose Kickstarter because it's seen as like the leading platform. But it's worth considering that it is divided into different regional platforms. So there's an American Kickstarter and there's a UK Kickstarter. So the success of the American model doesn't necessarily translate to the UK platform. It does have a higher success rate according to their statistics. They have about a 45% success rate, which is higher than Indiegogo's. Indiegogo haven't released their success rate officially. And within that success rate, the projects which are much more likely to succeed are for less than $10,000 or around £7,000. So these are kind of considerations. There is no guarantee of success with either platform. Here are some other crowdfunding platforms that you can consider. Space Hive on the left is a really interesting one. It's based here in Scotland. It's based over in Edinburgh, I think. And it's really based on donation model of crowdfunding. So if you have a project which you think people will really want to donate money to, you can put it up on Space Hive and people can donate money with no return. So they don't get any perks from you. It's really just donation. One of the advantages of this is that Space Hive have some contributing partners who invest extra money towards projects that they pick out as really excellent projects. So if you're running your campaign on Space Hive, you're halfway to your target, then there's a chance that one of their funding partners, such as Experian, might put some more money towards it to help you along, which is a good boost. Crowdfunder.co.uk is another one with a Scottish heritage. It's kind of a London, Glasgow crowdfunding platform, and it has a focus on community projects and films. It's a really interesting crowdfunding platform that's kind of really grown in popularity over the last few years. And they have a really interesting model in, as you can see at the bottom of the page there, where you can see the target for this example. They have something called an initial target and a stretch target. So they're effectively kind of halfway in between the fixed funding model and the flexible funding model. So what they ask you to do is set an initial target for the bare minimum of what you need to achieve for your project, and then set a stretch target, which would be your full target of what you want to achieve. Once you've reached your initial target, you then get any money that you raise from there on up to your stretch target. So if you're not quite sure which model to go to, this might be an interesting in between. Abundance on the right here is a crowdfunding platform which is focused on renewable energy projects, renewable energy companies, with a kind of equity focus. So if your project is along those lines, it might be worth going with a platform that has that real focus. They will have like a database of investors who are interested in renewable energy schemes. There's also a new crowdfunding platform based in the Highlands called Earthways. It's new and I don't know it well yet, but they don't ask for a percentage, so you do get to keep all the money you keep on that one. So the next thing to think about once you've chosen your platform is setting your target. And this is one of the most important and one of the most difficult elements of organising your crowdfunding campaign. There's no magic kind of calculator or model that you can use to type in the parameters of your project and come up with a number that you can reach. But here are a few things that you can consider to help you come up with your target. First of all, do you have a name? A lot of my background is working in crowdfunding for films, and we really see very clearly that if one of the lead actors is quite famous, then we can raise a lot more money than if there are no famous actors in it. I'm not sure whether you'll have a famous actor in your community project, but you may have some other kind of big name. It's maybe someone in the local area who's willing to back you, somebody who has really tremendous reach. It could be a really influential member of your local council or a government spokesman who's kind of backs your project. Or it could be anything along those lines that you think that there's a name that people will listen to. You can also reach out. This person doesn't need to be already within your group. You can reach out and find a name who will back you, and that can have a really good impact. The biggest question is, how big is your potential audience? So this combines with whether or not you have a name. So if you do have a big name involved, then they'll have a potential audience attached to that. So think about, do you have a mailing list? How many people are on your mailing list? How many people are in your Facebook page? How many people follow you on Twitter? Do you have a really big group of board members who have a large network between them? Think about how many people you can reach. Once you start promoting your campaign, between 1% and 3% of the people who see it will back it. So that means that you need to reach a lot of people in order to raise the money that you need. Another way to reach a wider audience is to think about what kind of niche you represent. So, for example, if your project is saving endangered trees, there are lots of groups and networks out there in the world, and well beyond Scotland. You can start thinking globally when you're talking about tapping into these audiences who would be interested in contributing to something which saves trees. Also, think about how much you need. I think the kind of initial instinct when you start setting your target is try and figure out how much you could get. What's the maximum that you could get? And I know with most community projects, you're always trying to kind of get more money for your project. There's always things that you could spend it on. But another way of looking at it is how much do you actually need? Be really realistic about that. Don't ask for more than you need if you don't need it. You will be required in your crowdfunding page to really kind of break down the spend and really justify the amount that you're asking for. So be realistic about what you need instead of just going for the most that you think you can get. Another thing to question yourself is, what can you offer? So sometimes crowdfunding projects which maybe don't have a name or a massive audience, they actually have something really valuable to offer. So for example, in the middle example here, Three Wise Monkeys Climbing Centre, they didn't have a huge potential audience, but they did contribute quite a lot of time to their campaign and really campaigned very hard. And one of the things that they offered was that as one of their perks, people could buy access to the climbing centre. So they reached out to climbing fans, and because their perks were so attractive, I think it really helped them reach their target. They actually went over their £40,000 target in 28 days. For most crowdfunding platforms, you'll be asked to create a pitch video. And in some of the platforms that give you a choice of either pitch video or just image to head up your campaign, there's evidence that the campaigns with a pitch video do much better than campaigns without them. I think they do about 40% more effective, more likely to succeed than campaigns without a pitch video. So even if your platform doesn't even allow a pitch video, I think it's still worth making one and using that as a viral tool, a viral piece of content that you can use to spread your message. So here are a few tips for creating your pitch video. Think of it as a direct address to your audience. So you want to be kind of speaking directly to the camera at a distance that people can see your face and your head and shoulders. Speak directly to the person who's watching the video and implore them to donate to your campaign. The key points to get across, and you need to get them across quickly because you need to grab your audience's attention really quickly in this video, is who you are, what your film or your project is about, what you're going to do with the money that you're asking for, and why they should bother contributing. I'm sure you're very passionate about your project, but try and see it from the contributor's point of view. What do they get out of donating to you? Why should they care? And there's a key message that needs to get across that can be difficult to get exactly right. So practice it a few times. The key message is that your project has to happen, and also that you can't do it without their help. In addition to that, you also need to demonstrate that with their help, you can do it. So you can't do it without them, but with that little bit of support, you absolutely will deliver on your project. I'm going to show you an example of a pitch video.
The Arran Community Lands Initiative started off as a conversation in a pub 2 years ago, and a lot has happened since then. We've been successful in our bid to the Scottish Land Fund to buy 80 acres of disused farmland for the community.
We've got the chance to buy a big piece of land here in Whiting Bay for the use of the community. that I know so many people that would love to be responsible for a little bit of our land. Obviously, that's out with most of our possibilities, and this is a chance for us together to have that, to have a piece of land for us to be responsible for.
The mountain bike club are very keen on making proper mountain bike trails up in the land. There would be safe trails away from any traffic on the road, and we could have probably a few miles of safe walking tracks. Everyone in the community could enjoy having some safe walks at their disposal.
I'm looking forward to the cycle trails because well, I have an off-road bike and I can't really use it because I can only use it on the road, and I can never go out with my dad because he's in away. So it'll be good because I'll probably be able to go up on my own.
My name's Henry Murdo, and obviously I'm an enthusiast for the Ireland White Beam, extremely rare tree. The trouble with it is there's nowhere safe that we can plant it. It would be great to have a community scheme where the trees would be safe within the community and appreciated by the community, and that would be wonderful.
This is the land that we've managed to secure, and that's where all those activities are going to be set up.
Anything you think you can contribute in any way to create a great place for our children to learn and develop skills that we don't want to lose.
Please look at the perks on the website and donate what you can.
With your help, we can make this into the success story of Arran. Thank you very much for watching this video, and please donate as much as you can.
I think one of the key things to get across from that video is how different it is to the Brewdog video. The Brewdog video was it was all very equity for punks, as opposed to the Arran Land initiative video. And I think the main takeaway from that is that your video needs to really reflect the personalities of your group. There's no point trying to put yourself across as a completely different type of project, because really your key strength is yourselves. It's the passion and the commitment of your group. So put yourselves across as you naturally are, and don't get pulled away and tempted to be like some of the more flashy pitch videos, unless that really does reflect you. So next one is some cool perks. With the reward-based crowdfunding platforms, which most people seem to be going for, you'll want to be coming up with some ideas of perks to give people in return for their contributions. And one thing to consider is the range of perks. You'll probably want to have quite a big wide range of different perks at different prices, starting from quite low. People tend to have a £1 or a £5 or a £10 entry point as their first perk, and this could well be just something as small as a mention on your website, or just a thank you by Twitter, something like that. Ranging right up to the thousands of pounds for really big businesses who want to contribute to your campaign, and people who want to invest in a major way. The evidence is that the most popular perk is usually around the £20 mark, so make sure that you have a perk around that price. And that you get the bulk of your contributions will come from perks that are around the £100 mark. So it's worth having a £20 perk and a £100 perk, and a lot of other perks in between and over there. The key to getting a really, really effective perk is to think about something that's of high value to the donator, something that's unique that they can't get elsewhere, but which doesn't cost you very much to make, and particularly to post. You may be getting contributions from around the world, and generally every crowdfunding campaign that I've worked on has had a global reach, and people have donated from all over the place. So if you're making mugs like we did at the top here, you have to consider that you might have to post them to America or elsewhere. So think about what talents and resources you have within your team. So with the Arran Community Land Initiative, the video that you just saw, within their board of directors, they had lots of great skills. They had a local photographer who donated photographs that we could send to people, which we could send them digitally, but it was quite cheap to just package them up and post them because they were flat. We had people on the board who were nature experts who offered to do nature trails through the land, and that's something that you couldn't get from anywhere else. So it's a really valuable, unique perk, but it doesn't actually really cost them anything to produce. So have fun with your perks. Inject a little bit of humor into them if that's appropriate for your project, and just kind of be creative. Think about what you can create out of the assets that you have. Looking at the examples here, these are from the film that we worked on. The images at the top, it was a very early stage of the film, so there was very little that we could give away. All we really had was a script. So we had some of these key phrases and words from the script hand fired by the director's mum onto mugs, and we kind of sent them out. We also kind of ran little polls online on Facebook to see which key phrases and words people liked best and what they wanted on their mug. At the bottom middle, the graphic image that you see with the stripes, we didn't have any actors yet for the film, but we did have a knitwear designer who designed a scarf that the main character was going to be wearing all the time throughout the film. So it was going to be an iconic part of the film. So we released a knitting pattern for that particular scarf with this graphic illustration, and it really kind of appealed to a lot of knitwear fans who wanted to knit something that was like quite designer and quite unique, that would have that extra element to it. We released it digitally, so there was really no cost at all in sending that kind of thing off. Have a think about some extra detail. So in your kind of pitch, you'll be asked, you'll be guided through the process of putting all the detail about your pitch, and it'll include who you are, what your project is, how much money you want to raise, and how you're going to spend it. But try and add a little bit of extra detail to back up your claims. Obviously, you'll be really passionate about your project, but how does that fit within the bigger picture? So this example here of Black Girls Coding, this was a project to raise money to run a program to encourage more Black females in America to take up coding and kind of IT development. And they outlined their own passions and their own project really well. But what they did that really made their project successful was that they went and researched what other people had done around this area, and they pulled in these videos from Vimeo and these graphs from other people's studies, and they dropped them into their crowdfunding campaign to give them that extra kind of backup, that to give them that real need to show how important your campaign is in the bigger picture. If it isn't so worthy, if there isn't, if you don't really feel like you have something that you can pull in more detail about, you can create little snippets of information. So the example on the right here is to show what you can do to just kind of get across your argument. So little lists, people always read anything if it's in a list. So if you make a top 5 list of anything, people will read it. So just lay out your details in a way that makes it easy for people to digest and kind of get behind your idea. Number 6 is your team, and this is where a lot of crowdfunding campaigns fall down, because quite often one person will take over responsibility for running the crowdfunding campaign, and this can reflect really badly on your campaign. So it's important from the start that you get your full team together, get everybody committed, and make sure that everybody is going to really fully contribute to your campaign. This is a screen grab from an Indiegogo page, and this is what it looks like on the Indiegogo page. On the panel on the right, you will have an area where the members of your team have to input their photographs, their name, maybe connect it to their Facebook profile, and write a short bio about what their role on the project is. And I've seen so many of these where the people who are members of the team haven't filled them in, and it just looks really, really bad. It looks like your team isn't committed to your project. So just make sure that everybody fills in their profile and is visible on your campaign. Make sure there are smiley, excited, passionate faces as much as possible, and just kind of get across that sense of kind of commitment and togetherness and everybody working towards the same goals. Once the campaign's up and running, it's important that all those team members stay visible. So make sure that they're always retweeting your campaign page, that they're adding comments and updates on your page, and that they're really active in promoting your page online and in your local community as well. Which leads us on to promotion. And the caveat from the first page of, I think sometimes people think of crowdfunding as a way to get some free money, but actually it is a lot of work. You will have to spend quite a lot of time promoting your project. It will pretty much take over your lives for a few months during the planning phase, the actual delivery phase, and then for a short time afterwards when you have to deliver all your perks and thank all your contributors and just really kind of round up your campaign. So do make sure that you have your full team committed and that you've assigned enough time to spend promoting your campaign. I've generally found that it's really helpful if there's one person as part of your group who will just really take over digital promotion. So really kind of working on Twitter and Facebook and web forums and just kind of going online and engaging with people online and kind of spreading the word that way, because it's such a focused task that it can really kind of take over someone's life in a way quite easily. And there's quite a lot of stuff to do on the ground as well. I've listed a few elements here, so Twitter and Facebook, email, forums. There's also a lot of work that you need to be doing on the ground, so creating press releases and speaking to your local press, thinking about what wider press you can then tap into to promote your project. So if it's an environmental project, there's lots of global environmental kind of magazines and websites that might want to cover your story. And it does take a lot of time to work out where these publications are and to start building up relationships with them and speaking to them and asking them whether they would cover your story. And your local community, if it's a community project, your community are probably going to be a really key element of your crowdfunding campaign, as well as your friends as well. They'll be part of your community. The first 30% is the hardest part of your crowdfunding total to raise. It's like a real barrier to get past that initial hurdle of getting some contributions behind you. So something from the first 30 to the first 50% of contributions, you're probably going to get from friends, family, and your existing network. Once you've got past that phase, you'll start getting more contributions from the wider community, from people who are interested in your campaign, who are really convinced by your pitch video, who really believe in your purpose. So you need to be doing a lot of work on the ground. It's a really good idea to run events in your local community, like a launch event or a fundraising event. If it is community focused, it's also a really good idea to do a soft launch so that you're telling people in your local area that your crowdfunding campaign is going to be happening soon. That means that when it does launch, you're not really springing it on your local community. They're already primed for it. They're already aware for it. Some of the feedback from one of our local campaigns was that she first heard about a local campaign. She was really interested in contributing to it, and then she forgot. So don't be afraid to keep going back to the same community and reminding them that you're running a campaign and that there's still an opportunity to contribute and that you still really, really need their help. Apologies, it's the same video. I'm going to go to the case study of the Arran Community Land Initiative. You saw their pitch video earlier on, which really kind of got across their kind of passion for their project. Here are some of the elements that we worked with them to really kind of promote their campaign to their local audience and to a wider audience. Over on the left there, you'll see some of the perks that we had. And what we did first of all with Arran is we put together a presentation and we drove around the island and we went to all the local businesses and asked them whether they could support this campaign. So this was at least a month before the launch of the campaign, actually a little bit earlier than that, several months before the launch of the campaign. And what we were asking local businesses to do was to just generally get behind the project. If they could maybe kind of put flyers in their business. Maybe they could perhaps run some kind of fundraising event, or perhaps they could offer some kind of perk. So, for example, you'll see the second example down there, the VIP weekend, we went to one of the local hotels and said, could you possibly donate two free nights in your hotel that we could offer then as a perk. And they were really happy to contribute. From their point of view, it was actually quite good marketing. They were showing that they were supporting the community, and we were promoting their hotel across the world, really, as part of this campaign. So it's a win-win situation. That VIP weekend sold out, which was great. The family adventure experience above, it kind of pulled together lots of different talents from within the group, which just goes to show how this group were really clever at using their perks, choosing their perks according to their talent. A seashore scramble with a local company who donated that. Arran Bike Club donated bike rides. A local hotel volunteered to run a music night, which was really successful. So lots of local musicians volunteered their time to play music, and all the proceeds went towards the campaign. You can see here the picture on the right is a young girl from Arran. It's actually the daughter of one of the coordinators. Spent time kind of playing music at the music night, and also kind of took part in this little promo video that we used to promote the campaign. I'll show you a few seconds of it.
Running.
So the effect of that was the Arran Community Land Initiative managed to actually raise quite a lot of funds and donations a long time before they even started their campaign. You probably noticed that we didn't ask any of the businesses for money at that point, but one of the businesses, Arran Distillery, they said that they couldn't run an event, and they probably couldn't give a perk, but they would donate some money to the campaign, and they actually donated £2,000, which was an incredible boost to a campaign that hadn't even launched yet, and it also created an opportunity to create some press. So they handed over one of those giant checks, and the local press came along, and it was a photo opportunity, and so on. I'm going to take you on to the next project that we worked on as part of this pilot project, which was Kilfinnan Community Forest and their Sponsor a Sapling campaign. I'm going to show you the pitch video to give you an overview of the campaign.
My name is Robert Baruso, and I'm one of the directors here at the Kilfinnan Community Forest.
My name is Nikki Brown. I am Development Manager here at Kilfinnan Community Forest. What we are looking for is donations for a crowdfunding campaign, which is to regenerate an area of native woodland.
We got hit by quite a big storm last year, as a lot of people did, before we had the chance to do any preparation in the broadleaf area. So that got nearly completely flattened in places by the storm. We lost a lot of trees. So what we're planning to do is we're going to set up a nursery. Probably the cheapest way and the easiest way is just to put lots of saplings out on the forest floor. So the idea of the nursery is just to allow us to give the trees a head start before we plant them out into the big wide wood to fend for themselves.
We're hoping this is going to really have an educational and learning benefit to it. So as part of their forest school, that we're really working with them and educating them about woodlands and the importance of regenerating woodlands. So we're hoping this is really going to complement what they're doing already.
Where we're actually now is where the school kids do forest school. Well, we're hoping it will pretty much benefit not only people who live in the area, but people who visit the area. We are planning to create a number of crofts up on the side of on the hill, on the Clearfell site. The idea being behind crofts and a bit of housing as well is that the best way to having a living wood is to have people living in it.
There will be various different packages on offer as part of this campaign that you can obviously decide to buy. All of these packages will include a sapling and seeds. We're also hoping for some involvement from the local primary school. We're looking into them providing an artwork of your sapling as part of one of the packages. Thank you very much for watching this video. We really hope that you feel inspired to get involved with this project and donate as much as you possibly can. It's for a really good cause. And yeah, thank you very much for watching.
So that was the Kilfinnan Community Forest campaign. It's a really lovely campaign to raise money to reforest the destroyed area. So working with Kilfinnan Community Forest, we decided to just really kind of focus on their strengths. So you can see on the right there, we kind of created these nice animations to show how the destroyed area of forest was going to be kind of really regenerated and really kind of come to life through those donations. They kept their perks really, really simple. They decided to kind of run with this sponsor a sapling campaign, and that was really their key strengths, and I think it was a really good idea to do so. So their perks practically free. If people donated £20, they received this sponsor a sapling certificate, which you see top left, and this was just before Christmas. So we really kind of pushed these as great Christmas presents. So you could, it's one of those kind of what do you get for the person who's got everything? You get them a tree planted in their name. So we wrote their names on the certificates and emailed them out digitally. So there was really, really no cost. We just made the certificates here in the office and emailed them to people. So as part of their campaign, we did lots of outreach to environmental magazines and publications and websites. We got quite a bit of press. And we also created lots of memes, as we call them. So if you see the bottom left there, you might actually recognise that image, that picture, painted by one of the local children, and it was in the tree. In the forest itself. So we just used Photoshop to just kind of write some inspirational comments on that. This is kind of advice from a tree. It's actually quite good advice. And it's the kind of thing that if you post it on Facebook, people will like it and share it. So that kind of engagement with content is what you're really looking for. So it's not really kind of pushing the campaign directly, but it will lead people back to that campaign page, and it has a sponsor a sapling hashtag at the bottom of the image. So it's quite a gentle approach that just encourages more people to get involved and feel part of it. Over on the bottom right there, as Nikki mentioned, the local school was right next door, and they were really involved from the start. So we decided to kind of really kind of make the most of that and make it a good opportunity for the children to learn, as well as a good opportunity for the project to raise the money it needs. So we asked the children to run a sponsorship campaign. So the kids kind of went away into their local communities and tried to raise money for the trees. And the kids could then come along and plant the trees and learn all about the forest. And it became like a real educational experience for them. So you see from those two examples and from all the guidance that it is actually quite a lot of work to run a crowdfunding campaign. So you may be at this point thinking, I think I would rather fill in an application form and get some public funding or go through some other route. So is it worth the bother? I think that's the big question. And there's no easy answer to this. It is hard work, and I really recommend that if you are going into a crowdfunding campaign that you do consider the amount of work that you will need to commit to it. But it does have some really great benefits. As you can kind of see from some of the examples below from earlier on today, it really creates a community around your project in a way that's quite difficult to do otherwise. It really gets people involved right from the start. They're kind of quite literally invested in your project, and they feel part of it, and it kind of creates this whole network of people who are supporting you and promoting you and pushing you on, and they will stick with you throughout. I've worked on crowdfunding campaigns that are years ago, and the original crowdfunding contributors are still really gunning for that project. It creates an alternative source of funding. So yeah, it may be easier to fill out an application form, but application forms are not always going to be there. They're maybe not available. They maybe don't suit your project. You've maybe tried to reach public funding and haven't been successful. So this is an alternative way of sourcing the money that you need. You can also use it as match funding. So if you have done an application for a big piece of funding, but you need to provide match funding, you can use the power of the crowd to raise that money. It's also self-directed, and for a lot of people, having the kind of the power to kind of set their own objectives and set their own targets for funding, and to be able to kind of use that money to run their project in the way that they want to, with complete autonomy, is really attractive. And it kind of gives you a sense of pride and autonomy in your project, that you've kind of done all that yourself, and you can be really proud of your achievements. And at the end of the day, it is really excellent marketing for you. So a lot of projects kind of think that this is a kind of work that they should be doing anyway. As part of running their project, they should be reaching out to their local community. They should be running events. They should be using Twitter and Facebook to reach a bigger audience. They should be trying to get as many people as possible to get behind their project. So if this is something that you think that your project should be doing anyway, then it doesn't feel like so much of an imposition. But don't take my word for it. Nikki from Kilfinnan Community Forest has really kindly agreed to tell us about her experiences of crowdfunding firsthand. So there's a short video here from Nikki.
Hi, my name is Nikki Brown. I'm Development Manager at Kilfinnan Community Forest, a Scottish charity and community-owned woodland based in tiny Berwick, Argyll. So last year we delivered a crowdfunding campaign in partnership with Hot Tap Media and Highlands and Islands Enterprise, with the aim of raising money to construct a tree nursery in the forest, with the primary aim of regenerating an area of native woodland which had been badly affected by the storms of the past few winters. I didn't really know what to expect from crowdfunding. It's a relatively new concept for us and certainly not a tried and tested fundraising method for the charity. However, I viewed it as a good way of promoting the forest in activities and, of course, raising money towards a specific project. There was quite a lot of work involved in delivering the crowdfunding campaign, both in the initial planning process and then in the ongoing promotional activity. And then once the campaign was over, we needed to deliver the perks as well. So in terms of how we delivered our campaign, it was predominantly through social media. Our target was between sort of 10 and 20 tweets and Facebook posts a day. We were to come up with creative methods of engaging with other groups and networks, so online competitions and that kind of thing. And we also did some work locally, particularly through the local primary school, to encourage people within the village to engage in the project and to donate some money. In terms of the perks themselves, because our budget was predominantly for our target was predominantly to go towards construction costs of the tree nursery, we tried to come up with creative methods of delivering perks that would be, cost effective and easy to deliver. So these were forest tours and picnics and in the forest and wild camping and that sort of thing. The project went very well, although we came in slightly under target. We raised enough money to cover the cost of deer fencing, but we did need to match fund the labour costs for this. But that was fine because we viewed it as a very worthwhile project and one that we wanted to do anyway. Two bits of advice to anyone looking to deliver a crowdfunding campaign. Get a really good social media internal person on board in the first place from the start. We engaged the social media intern about halfway through, and I really think that was the turning point for our campaign. I think they contributed a lot towards the end result, and it made a huge difference. But having that ongoing continual social media activity is essential to the success of a crowdfunding effort. The other thing is the perks themselves. I mean, you need to bear in mind that you may have 50 to 100 people or more signing up for these perks, so they need to be deliverable. You need to be able to deliver on your promises, because otherwise that's going to impact on your reputation amongst anything else. You need to be realistic and set realistic targets and work out what's achievable. But other than that, I would really recommend to anyone that crowdfunding is a good way of raising money. Bear in mind, it's there's work involved to make it a success, but it's good and it enables you to engage with more people, get more people involved in your activities, and a good way of raising money overall. Thank you.
So that's Nikki from Kilfinnan Community Forest. We're also working on a toolkit which we're going to be sending you, which has a similar kind of feedback from our own Community Land Initiative in written form, which we'll be sending out to you. So this is what happens next. As I said, we're working on a toolkit which we're going to post out to you by email, digitally post out to you, and that kind of gives you a bit more guidance on running your own campaign. There's also a really great report by Trillium Fund by UKCF, which you can just click on the link there and download it. Or you can get in touch with me. I'm happy to take any kind of questions by email or Twitter. As we mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we are going to be engaging in more community projects in the Highlands and Islands as part of this pilot phase. So we will be in touch with you really shortly with the toolkit, more details about how to access this support, and a recording of this webinar. Okay, I'm going to take this webinar, this presentation off my screen now, and see whether you've sent me any questions. Hi there. You can probably see you. I'm just looking through to see if you've sent me questions. You sent me some hellos, which is lovely. Thank you. Can I message a link to report by Trillium? Yeah, 1 second. There you go. There's the links to the report by Trillium. I'm not sure that would everybody. I got a message here from someone saying that they couldn't get sound. I hope the rest of you have. I'll be sending this webinar out as a recording, so anybody who didn't get sound will get it that way. Lots more hellos. You guys are really friendly. Somebody here saying, can you give me some more information about the pilot? Yeah, sure. We're going to be releasing an application form online really shortly, where you can register your interest in being considered for the next project. So what happens is, if you're selected, we will give you a package of support, which includes a strategy for your campaign, a pitch video for your campaign, and a package of content. So you saw the little memes that we created for our Kilfinnan Community Forest. We'll create a little package, a piece of content like that, so videos, images, a little bit of branding that you can use, and your pitch video. And we'll work with you to choose the right platform to help you set your target, to craft your campaign message, and to craft your strategy of delivery across the life of the campaign. So it's very much on a very personal level. Come out to your project, sit down, have a cup of tea, and just kind of chat to you about what you're trying to achieve. So I'm just reading a question here. A question here about when is the best time to do your funding, in terms of when you're when you're writing your applications to other funding outlets. So, for example, if you're doing a public funding application form, I think it is generally your Highlands and Islands representative will probably have a clearer idea on this, so it's worth checking with them. But I think generally it's acceptable to put in the intention that you're going to raise money through crowdfunding as part of match funding for an application form, and they would consider that. Oh, bacon rolls. Anybody who has bacon rolls, as well as tea, is a serious advantage. Brilliant, great. Oh, hang on, sorry, another question. Is it better to go towards rewards or equity-based crowdfunding? Is there any evidence on success rate of one versus the other? The main difference between whether or not you should go for rewards or equity is, with equity, you can raise a lot more money, but only if you have something to offer. So if you're going to have a real income from your company, if it's a limited company and you can demonstrate that you're going to be having a real income that you can distribute as dividends to your contributors, you can therefore kind of raise a lot more money through equity. I can chat to you about your business plan about that and see whether it'd work for you. With rewards, you're talking about less money. So when I gave you that statistic on the most successful crowdfunding campaigns are under $10,000, that was for reward-based campaigns. If you're trying to raise more than that through reward-based campaign, then it can be quite difficult. Is a project dependent if you do standard rewards perks or if you do tiered options dependent on the value of the contribution. Yeah, it's a great idea to tier your perks according to the contribution. So you would want to have a perk for £20, which could be a nature walk, or and a perk for £50, which could be a nature walk plus a hoodie, and a perk for £100, which could be your name engraved on the plaque at the entrance to the forest, something like that. So yeah, tier your perks and your rewards according to value, to get the kind of the most out of it. Okay. Oh, I'm glad to hear that someone managed to get sound at the end. Good stuff. You'll still get the recording. Is income from crowding subject to income tax? That's a really good question. That will depend on the legal status of your organisation. So if you're generally subject to income tax, then it will be, and if you're not, if you're try to be and pay it, then it won't be. Yeah, I can send you the presentation slides as a PDF. A question, how long will the pilot run for? Another good question. We'll be sending out the application form very soon and asking people to let us know what time frame they're working to. We want the next project or two to happen fairly quickly, but obviously we're flexible. We're trying to support the projects which we think will be most benefit from crowdfunding. So there's no fixed time frame, but we're going to be asking you to tell us our time frame, and we'll need to know that quite quickly. How do you find out who your Highlands and Islands representative is? Hang on, let me see if I can see if Claire can answer that for you. Right, I've just unmuted Claire Monroe, who I hope can answer that question. Claire, can you tell us how to find out who your Highlands and Islands representative is?
Hi there. Can everybody hear me?
Hi, Claire.
Hi. First of all, I want to say thank you very much. That was really interesting, Rebecca, and I hope we've got some groups online who are inspired by what you've had to say. I certainly want to just go off and run a crowdfunding campaign right now. We did set up this webinar for community organisations who are currently working with HIE, Highlands and Islands Enterprise, and if you are, then you should know who your main contact would be within HIE. But we wanted to open the webinar out to any other community groups who might be interested. So unfortunately, if you're not already working with HIE and you're not located in the Highlands and Islands area, then that wouldn't be possible. But as I say, if you are already receiving support from Highlands and Islands Enterprise, somebody in your group should know who that person would be. But by all means, get in touch with me. Maybe you can put my email address in the communication that you send out, Rebecca, so that if anybody does want any other information about Highlands and Islands Enterprise, I can quite happily send it to them.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I will do. We should include it in the toolkit and in the follow-up message. That's fine. There's a question here about community shares and whether or not it's a good idea to run a community shares campaign at the same time as a crowdfunding campaign, or whether it would be confusing. I think it might be confusing, to be honest. I would kind of choose one or the other. They're very similar and all the same kind of tips for promotion and marketing and scheduling and reaching your audience would be the same. So I would choose one model over the other rather than doing two at the same time. Do you have a list of inspiring perks / rewards? I don't have a list, but if you have a look through Indiegogo and Kickstarter, then there's so many kind of creative perks that people have done. I certainly kind of know a few that have been really great. I know that there was a film here in Glasgow called God Help the Girl, where the lead director, Stuart Murdoch, was a pop star and he had quite a following already. And one of their perks was a game of Scrabble with Stuart Murdoch, which got, I think he maybe released 5 of them and they got snapped up really, really quickly. I think someone else had an open top bus tour of their area, which I thought was a really lovely idea. And yeah, other perks that have gone down really well, things like kind of like mugs and t-shirts are always really popular, but beware of them because they can be expensive to make, and especially for the mugs, expensive to post. Let me see. I go ask that one. This is another question for Claire, if that's okay. Is Highlands and Islands Enterprise looking to support crowdfunding in general? Is the rest of Scotland going to be supporting crowdfunding?
We did this as a pilot, as Rebecca mentioned in her introduction, because we felt that crowdfunding was a really good opportunity for community organisations to raise some funding towards their projects. So that's really what we're doing at the moment, is testing the market for this opportunity. And the outcome of this pilot is that the learning will be shared with other groups so that they will find it easier to run their own campaigns. We don't have any plans at the moment to roll this out any further. Really just wanted to help our groups understand the opportunities and also the challenges. And we've also learned quite a lot along the way so far. So no plans at the moment, but certainly some of our staff we're all raising our own awareness about crowdfunding. So we'd be very happy to help you brainstorm ideas and get things together. The crowdfunding campaign, the whole idea of it is that you use a lot of your own resources and it should be quite low cost. So we wouldn't be looking to support that financially, if you like. Kind of defeats the purpose. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Claire. There were no more questions just now. Feel free to kind of ping any along, or even to kind of tweet me directly to ask questions. But there is a good suggestion here from one of the participants saying that coasters are a really good option for perks, maybe for the £10 or £20 mark. It's a really nice idea because you can get them printed with your community logo or kind of images even from your local area. So if there's no more questions, I'd really like to thank everybody for coming along today. It was really great to speak to you all. I've got no idea where you all are, so it's quite exciting to think that you're kind of scattered across the Highlands and Islands. As I say, we'll be in touch really shortly with the toolkit and with more information about how to access this level of support for the final projects. So everyone out. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.